And we are live. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, welcome to the official return of the Evil Shemps. Quick little update. We had some issues with the with everything that's going on. Our my last co-host Kane had some issues he had with his living situation, so he's trying to figure that out. And he had to take off from the show a little bit. And, it's understandable. We're not sure if he'll be back, but we wish him well. And with that all said, we have officially come back. We are going to be on a regular schedule now. I want to introduce our new co-host, our new Shemp, Dominic Pouchet. Say hello to the people.
Hello, everybody.
Cool. All right. Awesome. And yeah, we're the evil Shemps are back in full effect now. So, first off,
Reanimated, you could say.
yeah, returning uh from the dead, if you will. Um we our first thing I would like to say is we got some news, a little update on the Evil Dead animated series. Bruce Campbell was being interviewed last weekend at San Diego Comic-Con, and he confirmed that they are in the pitching stages of the series. So hopefully, I mean, I can't see why it wouldn't get picked up by like Hulu or Netflix or Max. So I'm pretty sure we'll be getting more news on that soon. Yeah, and also this past weekend, whatever, I watched Batman: The Cape Crusader. That was really good. It was a great return to form, especially since it was helmed by Bruce Timm. Dominic, you said you watched the first couple episodes.
First four, and I absolutely adore the artwork. It's got to be the absolute best Batman I've seen since the original animated series. And I'm kind of picky with the art. I really enjoy the Art Deco, I guess, that like
Yeah. Well, I guess again,
classic Gotham look.
I guess it's helmed by the same guy who made the original classic '90s Batman animated series. So, yeah, yeah. I mean, he's working his magic once again, and I really enjoy it. And I hope they get a season two. Yeah,
Oh, I'm sure they will. It's so well done. The art alone should sell it, especially to classic fans.
I hope so. And like, none of the changes they made really bother me either. I actually like some of the things they've done. It's kind of refreshing in a way to see new takes on these characters. I mean, as long as they're written well, which in my opinion they are, I'm open to certain changes. Um,
I share
yeah,
your opinion on that. I think the writing is well. I enjoy the changes, just changing it a little bit, not drastically. And I really enjoyed the Penguin being a woman and certain other small changes. But for the most part, just seeing Gotham the way that I loved seeing Gotham.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Me
We'll be
too.
doing a whole show on Batman sometime soon.
I think that's next week. We'll be doing that.
Yeah, I think
I think we're
so. Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we'll be getting more into that for sure. So yeah, on to our main topic, I suppose. Spaz, since or I should say Dominic. I should say
That's my handle, Spaz Monkey.
yeah, yeah. Um
That's
since
why he calls me Spaz all the time.
yeah, yeah. It's a hard habit
Mhm.
to break. Anyway, so yeah, since this is your area of expertise, why don't you introduce the topic, the main
Okay, so
topic?
tonight we're going to be doing Return of the Living Dead, the classic, in my opinion. Uh, Probably the best non-Romero zombie film ever created.
Yep.
Can't say enough good about this film. It overshadows every one of them except for maybe the third one, which is really kind of out of left field. But we'll get more onto that later.
Yeah, for sure.
But for someone in my position, grew up being a military kid and knowing a little bit of the inside, how service people actually think, or at least my family thought of service, you can relate a lot to the mistakes that happen in this movie.
Yeah, and I love that
So
you have that
I guess if
perspective too. I love that you have that perspective too. If you want to get a little deeper into that, I'd love to hear it.
oh sure, okay. So my father served in the Air Force, and I grew up as a military kid, moving from one base to the next, and living in Germany as a baby, which I can't remember, but and just being all over the world, and eventually settling down for a little while in California.
The
And
Germans like, oh, guten Tag, a little baby spaz. Yes, even the Germans back then called you
oh,
little
they
baby
loved the
spaz.
little baby spaz. They loved little baby spaz in Germany. Passed me around and in a pub, no less, because my parents are classy like that. It took me into
Well,
a
you're cutting out a bit, spaz. You're cutting out a little bit.
pub. Very.
You cut out for a minute there, spaz. Uh oh. I guess he's having some. There you go. I think you're back now.
That
Okay.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Sorry
Yep.
about the technical difficulties.
No problem.
Yes. So, as I was saying, growing up in military family, I remember being with my father, and my father had been in Vietnam, and there was a chemical that they sprayed on the plants called Agent Orange, which is a herbicidal chemical known as Roundup now. They sprayed it willy-nilly in Vietnam, and a lot of people. My father came down with cancer, and it eventually took my father. Um,
I heard that was a
so
big thing with
this
Agent
kind of
Orange.
has
Gave
a
a
lot.
lot of people that handled it cancer and like
Oh,
stuff like that, right? There was a lot of.
well, they literally sprayed it on there, and my dad also shared with me that it couldn't have just been the Agent Orange because when I was a kid, we got sprayed with DDT, and we used to ride behind the trucks and our bikes when they were spraying DDT.
Right.
That contributed to it as well. It didn't do anyone any favors.
Right.
And being a man from the set smoking Marlboro bare ass cigarettes, which means no filter, didn't do him any favors.
Oh, you'd smoke
Uh,
non-filter Marlboros. Yeah. Uh-oh.
What's going on with this thing? What's going on with this thing? Okay, why am I having technical difficulties here?
How's your
Sure.
internet signal?
Okay. Let's see. Says I got full signal. This is weird. Okay.
All right.
So, I was saying again, sorry for the flips,
No, it's all right.
but
Yeah, just yeah, you seem to be okay
so I
now.
could relate to a lot of the things that go on in the movie and the inside perspective. There's a running gag where one of the characters uh, says typical army fuck up, and that guy's name is the character's name is Frank Johnson, and he's played by James Karen, and he reminds me a lot of my father, both maybe a little bit older than my father because he was a World War II veteran.
Okay.
For those of you who are horror fans, you might know him as Mr. Coolidge in Poltergeist. He's the guy that moved the tombstones
Oh,
and
okay.
let the ghosts haunt the house. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He reminds me a lot of my father in a lot of ways, especially his sense of humor.
Cool. All right.
So that's my particular background with this movie and probably why it haunted me so much of my youth. And when I got older, I began to rather love it than fear it. So
Right,
yeah,
right.
the movie came out when I was 10 years old. And I didn't get to see it in the theaters, but like the year later, they had it out on the cable streaming, and I got to see it on either HBO or Cinemax or whatever was on at that time.
Right, right.
And I remember sneaking down and watching it because if my parents knew I was watching that, maybe not so much my father, because interesting side note, if we ever do a show about the original Alien, when that first came out, my father took me with him to
To the
the
theater
theater,
to see
and,
it.
and we saw Alien, and I was a baby, and my mother was not too pleased with him about that.
You
So
took him to
my
see
dad never had any
Alien?
problems. I remember sitting on my dad's lap and watching the first Howling on cable as well. And that scared the living hell out of me as a kid. My dad used to joke, "You're gonna crawl inside my shirt pocket," because I was clutching to him and snuggling up to him. I was
Right.
afraid the werewolves were gonna get me.
Aw, those bears afraid of the werewolves. Uh, cool, man.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what about you? You have any experiences with this movie that you like to share?
Well, um, I mean, we've talked about this before. I mean, really, my first experience with it was just renting it from the video store. This particular horror film. I mean, there were other horror films I grew up watching with like you like with my dad, or just sneaking into the living room late at night trying to find whatever late night horror movie I could find on TV. Putting the volume on really low, hoping my parents wouldn't wake up and find out, but they always knew. They just stopped caring eventually. Uh I remember the original Fright Night was one of the movies I saw on TV, like as a kid doing that. Um but yeah, with Return of the Living Dead, yeah, I rented it from the video store when I was younger. The cover art caught my eye for sure. Um, you
It's
know,
beautiful. It was a painting, I believe, that they
yeah,
had on the original tapes of the skull coming. Or no, that's a second. The punk rockers behind the tombstone.
right,
It was Trash and Suicide, I think, but they really did the decay job on them. I guess that was what O'Bannon wanted originally. That's might be one of the. This was another thing that might be coming up a lot. Is O'Bannon wanted a lot more than he got in the movie. So that might be one of the things he couldn't afford to have the state of decay on the Suicide or Trash that he would want. Because if you look at the posters, they are almost skeletal.
right,
So
yeah,
I don't know if that was one of the things he wanted that he didn't get. But I remember looking at that and going, "But that's not in the movie. They don't look. You don't see bones.
right,
You might see the outline of bones, but you don't see bones. You don't see the skeletal system."
yeah, um, yeah, no, so and I've often said this before. I always gravitate towards horror movies that have that levity to them, that sense of humor to them, and that obviously was a big draw to me with Return of the Living Dead, because it's very present there. Um, yeah, that's about, yeah, and then I think I watched like the sequels when I was younger. I I was around like my young teenage years. We had this channel on our cable service called Monsters HD, and they would just marathon like different horror movies all the time. And one of the marathons they had was Return of the Living Dead, and they played all. I think they played the first three. I don't know if they played. I don't think they played Necropolis and Rave to the Grave on there. I don't even know if those were out yet around this time.
Probably not, because I think
Yeah.
that they came out in like 2002.
Okay.
I think that's about the time that the Rave to the Grave and
Oh, they're
Necropolis
more
came out, or
2004,
I-
2005. I thought
yeah, somewhere
maybe
around there.
somewhere
Yeah.
whatever. But also they were
They're the
sci-fi.
next generation, if you will.
But also they were also owned by Sci-Fi Channel. Some it could have been rights issues or whatever there too. So yeah, so I remember watching 2 and 3 on TV during that time. Uh, Although I had rented both from the video store prior to that. No, yeah, yeah. That's like I said, the video store and TV. That's uh my main exposure to these movies. So a lot of like 80s, 70s horror films. Um, cuz I was born in 88, so
And I was born in '76,
right.
so that
Yeah.
that shows the age gap between us pals here, us
Well, whatever. Don't
yeah
gotta make it
chimps
fucking
that
weird, damn
evil
it.
Sims.
Yeah, why you gotta fucking make it weird,
Yeah.
man? Jesus Christ.
Oh, well,
Um,
it wouldn't be any fun if I didn't make it weird, man.
but anyway, no. Point is that yeah, I was born in '88, so I grew up watching a lot of those '80s movies on TV because a lot of the '90s movies, well, all '90s movies were coming out as I was like growing up, So, obviously, a lot of those '90s movies ended up on TV at some point, but back then it took a bit longer for like newer movies to come on TV than it was older ones. So back then, yeah, I'd just be watching all types of '80s movies, '70s and '80s movies. Um, yeah, and of course, a lot of them were horror. So yeah, um, yeah, and I think on that note,
Okay,
we should start talking about the first movie. Let's actually start
okay, let's
delving
do this.
into the first film.
Okay.
Why don't you
So
start?
for those of you who don't know, there were two people who made Night of the Living Dead. There was Russo and Romero. Both of them uh, wrote and of course Romero directed it. So Russo and Romero agreed that they could make other movies, but they wanted to kind of go their own separate ways. And there was no animosity. They've been friends. It was mostly legal jargon. More long story short, they forgot to put the copyright on Night of the Living Dead, and that just caused havoc. And that's why Tom Savini came in later to do a remake so that they can actually put a copyright on it. Because before then, and it's kind of a mixed bag because you wouldn't know about Night of the Living Dead if they had put the copyright on it, because every drive-in in America played Night of the Living Dead, and that's how it just spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
But Vince Russo and George Romero decided to part ways after Night of the Living Dead. The agreement was that Russo would retain the rights to any title featuring Living Dead, while Romero was free to create his own series, which went on to be called the Dead
Yeah.
series. But so Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, so on and so
Right.
forth, or Dawn of the Dead, rather.
Right.
And so you got Return of the Living Dead. They were batting it around a little while, and Russo tried the proposition to make Return of the Living Dead, which is going to be a direct sequel to the first Night of the Living Dead. So when that happened, they went around, they were looking for people, and they didn't want to pay a lot of money, and that is where O'Bannon comes in. O'Bannon was a screenwriter, and he wrote Alien, which took off and was probably one of the biggest franchises, well, became one of the biggest franchises of all time. In
Right.
the 80s,
Yep.
he really wanted to direct. So he started writing scripts for like Life Force and Buried Alive and these kind of movies because he wanted to get his foot in the door. And they finally said, "Okay, fine, we'll give you the Russo version of Night of the Living Dead." And
Okay.
O'Bannon, being, in my opinion, a genius, looked at the script and went, "Romero has his thing. He's great at it." He looked at the script and he's like, "This is just another version of Romero's because it's the same exact thing." And he didn't want to step on Romero's toes, as he put it in the More Brains documentary. So he's like, okay, I'm going to take a look at the script and I'm going to do a version. And he wrote a treatment and he showed it to Russo. And Russo was like, well, I just want to get it made.
Right,
So
right.
Russo gave him permission to write the script. And being the fact that O'Bannon came off of Alien, it was not a hard decision for Russo to go, yeah, let's let O'Bannon take the helm and write the script.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he did. And that's the backstory for what happened. Another reason that Russo chose O'Bannon was originally they had Tobe Hooper, who was the Texas Chainsaw director, to
Right.
direct
Yeah.
that Return of the Living Dead, I should say. And he had a lot of problems with the script and the money that they were paying him, and he went off and said, "No, I'm not going to do that." And the thing that's kind of a backstage slap in the face is because Hooper went off to direct Life Force, which
Yeah.
O'Bannon wrote.
Right.
Or co-wrote. I'm not sure if it's co-wrote, but anyways, he had
Another movie we need to
significant
cover one
input
of these
on.
days.
Mhm. So when that happened, they're like, "Well, we can't afford Tobe Hooper's costs. I tell you what, we got a screenwriter named O'Bannon, and he wants his first directorial major motion picture. I'm sure he did some minor pictures, but this would be major motion picture." And he rewrote the script and changed enough of it so that it had the feel of a zombie movie, but it literally rewrote what we think of when we think zombies. My opinion. Before that, they were shambling, flesh eaters, ghouls, as Romero called them. Now we have Romero, and everybody knows what zombies eat. They eat brains,
Yep.
and they yell brains.
Yep.
That's all thanks to Romero. I mean, I'm sorry, that's all thanks to
O'Bannon.
O'Bannon.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have any brain-eating zombies if it wasn't for O'Bannon.
Yeah. Because with the Romero films, they just eat flesh. They just eat human. Yeah, they just eat people, other people. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah,
So if we want to get
O'Bannon was definitely the one who solidified, the brains trope. More brains, send more men, send more cops.
right, and whereas Romero is a semi-serious take on society, this is a little more. I guess it's a little more of a dark comedy. It's. I've been told by several people that it is a bad taste comedy, and
Right.
that's the kind of stuff I love.
Oh yeah, same.
And
Oh yeah, 100%.
so when we got that, they started. They chopped the budget completely for this movie. They started out promising him everything in the moon because obviously Russo was the team with Romero, and they could just run it on the name
Right.
Living Dead
Yeah.
alone.
Right.
But as production started and Bannon started wanting things, they started cutting him, and he's not the most endearing person when he's a director, according to the cast. He, if they cut something, he took it personally. And as he said later in the films, that he didn't get what he wanted.
Right. Right.
And I'm kind of curious about what he didn't get. And
yeah, same.
But maybe we should start with maybe getting a little background on the story and what it means to us.
Sure.
So we can start with the very beginning of the film, if you prefer.
Yeah.
First thing.
Let's just start from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the
sense.
very beginning, the first thing that you can tell is the dark humor of it is that it says these events are based on a true story, or are a true story, and
right. Well, because the way the movie
that's the beginning where.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's because that's the way that the movie sets it up. Is like these are the zombies that were from Night of the Living Dead. Like these are the leftover. Like these are the ones that the government contained and kept in these barrels or whatever, these containment barrels, right? That was like,
Ex- Exactly. And this
yeah,
movie came out during the Reagan era. And I don't know exactly if it was during the Iran Contra hearing, but everybody was questioning the. What I remember being a little kid is everybody started not trusting their government so much.
right.
Yeah, we are kind of slimy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we have two people we're introduced to right away in the UNITA
Yep.
medical supply building. And we have Frank and Freddy. So, like I said, I told you about Frank originally. He's James Karen. And we have Freddy,
That's the young
who
one. Wait, Freddy's the
all
young one,
horror.
right?
Yes, yes. Freddy, everybody
Yeah,
knows who Freddy is.
that's Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah, that is Tom Matthews, who
Yeah,
played Tommy
in part
Jarvis.
6. Yep, Friday the
Yeah,
13th, part 6.
yep.
Yep.
Yes, he did. And everybody loves him. And there's a reason that Karen and Tom Matthews play so well together. It was Tom Matthews' first major motion picture, and Karen would mess with him. He would ad lib things like the whole "all skeletons come from India,"
Right.
which was a sick fact that's true back then. But you can see Tom Matthews reacting to this like, no way, and that's real. That's a real reaction. That's something that was just ad libbed.
Okay.
And
Interesting. All right.
so you get the older man and the younger man, and what scares each generation. At least that's my take on it.
Right. No,
So
that's
yeah, you get
interesting.
them working together, and yeah, you get them working together, and Karen is character is showing him how
Yep.
to do the stalking and so on and so forth within the warehouse. And they're taking a break, and the whole thing starts on a dad joke, in my opinion.
Okay. A
So
dead.
you have Frank say to Freddy, he says, "You know that movie Night of the Living Dead?" And he says, "Oh, that's the one where the corpses take over the world." And he's like, "Well, do you want to see them?"
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's like, "What?" And he's like, "The corpses." And and Karen's got this way of looking when he's acting that makes
Well, that's
you
the whole thing how it
laugh.
started. It's interesting to think that like a lot of these horror movies often start just through sheer human error. It's like it's like, oh, you want to go see the bodies? Yeah, we got them in barrels in the basement. It goes down there. Oh, whoops! Oh, looks like I cracked. Whoops! I guess I opened it.
Yeah, and that once again, that's drawing into the question the young people of the mid 80s, because 1985, they were questioning, okay, these are the people that are supposed to be our government, the people, our parents, who are supposed to be protecting us.
Right.
And one of our parent or our parental figures, a father figure, takes us to see a completely dangerous thing,
Yeah. It's like.
and has so much trust in the government that he literally smacks the side of the barrel to
Mm-hmm.
show his confidence,
Yep.
and it ends up costing both of them their lives.
Exactly.
So the next person we get introduced to, or the next character we get introduced to, is only seen in a melting scene, and that is the probably arguably the most famous zombie of the Car Man, who
Oh,
is
yeah,
played by
Carman.
Alan Truman, um, who worked with the Muppet shows on It's Not Easy Being Green
Yeah, you
and the
mentioned to
Muppet
me that he
Theater.
worked with Jim Henson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and before that, he was a mime and an actor and very physical guy. But the reason that they selected him for Tarman is, as we were saying earlier, when the barrel is breached because Karen's character hits it on the side of the barrel.
Yep.
uh, it gets exposed to the air. The corpse does. So
Right.
they took a wax figure and put it over a skeletal face, and then they put a heater beneath it, like a fan heater, and it just melted the face. And that's what we get Tarman from.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we
Um.
have possibly the greatest zombie ever put on film
Right.
in Tarman.
Yeah. Arguably. Yeah. He might be the most iconic zombie ever put in a movie. I think. Yeah. Um. I mean, I hate to say it, but I'd say he's probably more iconic than Bub.
Yeah,
As much as I
it
love
breaks my
Bub.
heart because you know how I feel about
Yeah.
Romero. Yeah,
Yeah.
Romero is my hero. So, yeah, Bub is great. I think Bub is a lot more emotional and relatable because you know they're us and we're them in Romero's films. That's
Yeah.
said in the movies. But you know, O'Bannon's like, not in my films. They're not.
Yeah.
No, these are killing machines. They don't care about anything but stopping the pain they feel.
Yep.
So
Yeah. I
that's
guess.
how we get Tarman.
Yeah, and I guess moving along to another iconic scene in the film, in my opinion, the most iconic scene is when we have the the green female zombie, the upper torso female
Oh, the
zombie, and
half
they
corpse.
yeah, the half corpse, and they
Hmm.
have her they have her strapped to the table, and they're asking her like, what, why are you doing this? Why are you eating brains? Why are you eating us? She goes like,
And she
to
reports
stop the
not.
pain, the pain of dying. And it's like, oh
Yeah,
shit.
she retorts to them that she doesn't eat people. She
Yeah,
makes it very clear. I don't eat people.
I eat
She said,
brains.
not people, brains.
Oh yeah,
The brains make
brains.
the pain go away.
Yeah, the pain of dying. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, I can feel myself rotting, and this agonizing voice, and
Yeah.
yeah, that set up a nightmares for me for my whole childhood.
Oh yeah, that scene stays with you. Especially with how well the
So we,
puppetry is especially with how well the puppetry is done.
oh, I'm not exactly sure. That'd be something for maybe you to look up, but I think the man who did the special effects in Return of the Living Dead, the practical effects,
Yeah.
was on par with Tom Savini. I think maybe Tom Savini just had a style of his own, and you could try to simulate it. They have obviously tried to simulate it, but he has a character to his things.
Right.
And you could say the same thing about this gentleman. I knew he was a young man that they hired because the original guy that they hired, they had to fire because he put eyeballs in a skeleton, and they were just like, no, because the eyeballs
Yeah.
was one of the first things to rot away. And they were not happy with him at all. And the fact also that it was bleach white skeleton, and they're like, if something's been in the ground, it's not going to be bleach white.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. So maybe chronologically we could go on to the the next character we get introduced to, if
Yeah.
if you don't mind.
Go
Okay,
go
cool.
for it.
So next character we get contacted by is we get Freddie and Frank wake up, if you want to call it that,
Yeah.
coughing, and they start spraying Lysol around to get the stuff out of the air because they're really screwed up. And of course, Frank is only concerned about his job and his reputation,
Right.
and Tommy's I was supposed to say Tom Matthews, Freddie is concerned about, are we going to die?
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, so they're like, we're going to call the boss. That's what we're going to do.
Right.
So they call the boss. Uh, this is after the yellow man breaks out of which is another
Oh yeah.
corpse,
Another
breaks out and
iconic
attacks.
zombie scene. Yeah, the yellow man.
Hmm.
Yep.
So they call in Bert, who is played by Clue. Uh, Bert Wilson is his name. It's played by Clue Gallagher, and they shopped around for a leading man, and it seems like Clue is the affordable leading man,
Right.
and they have in new or More Brains documentary him talking about who would you get with the budget we had for a leading man. Is how O'Bannon delicately when
Put
he
it.
asked why did I get the part.
Right.
Yeah. So we have someone who is a seasoned actor and known for a lot of films, westerns mostly, and he comes to this low budget. Nobody knows, people don't. Some people don't even know who Russo is. They know who Romero is, obviously, but
Right.
they don't. Who the hell is Russo?
Yeah.
So when they have him come in, they hired him dead last.
Okay.
And all
Right.
the other actors had about I think like a week or two of prep work, so they knew everything chronologically, what was happening. So if you watch Clue, who is a great actor because someone who can just be put on the spot and still produce believable dialogue, is amazing because he didn't have really lines. He was
Right.
reacting most of the time. He didn't have the chronological, and he everything was surprising him as it came along. I mean, maybe they talked to him about what was going to happen that day, but he didn't have the 2 week preparation that the other characters have. And maybe that's a good thing because he's supposed to be the outsider coming in to fix things.
Right. Well, I think then we also get introduced to our other group of characters, the punks, the
Right, we're a little bit out of chronological order because I think you get introduced to the punks right after the tank is breached. I think
Okay,
they show the
well,
car
yeah.
full
So
the
so
kids
going
walking
back a
down the
little
street.
bit, yeah. So going back a little bit,
Right.
we get introduced to the punk characters. Um,
Yes, and this is a great contrast to the characters we were introduced to, don't you think?
yeah, absolutely. Um, because
Now,
we have. Go ahead.
So Freddy is one of the punks. I don't know if you can
Right.
tell that by looking at him. He's a little bit more watered down than the extremes of the other punks.
Right.
Maybe because he's at work. I don't know. He does have the earring and he does have the rat tail, which is something I find hilarious. Rat tails,
Yeah.
something that only comes from my generation. And yeah, so they're coming to pick up Freddy because Freddy always knows where there's a party. Isn't that hilarious
Yeah.
that he has a party in mind? So they all pile into a car, which is owned by probably the most intimidating looking man in the movie, Suicide.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
and Suicide is, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. It's like Mark Valentiro. You might remember him, horror fans, from Friday the 13th, The New Beginning. He played the axe wielding maniac that killed the young man who ended up being the murderer's son.
Right.
So um, he
What the actor's name was Mark what? Mark Valentino?
I Val Venturino, I think is how you say it. I'm not sure. I'm very bad with names.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, Venturino. Yeah. He kills the. That's right. Yes. He kills
Mhm.
the fat kid in the beginning of part 5, yeah, with the axe.
Right, right. You want a chocolate bar, Vic? You want a
Yeah.
chocolate bar?
No.
Oh, I'll give you a chocolate bar, mister.
If that's how you're gonna be, forget it. Forget it, Vic. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. And he just fucking comes at him with the axe. Ah. Fucking. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now
Okay.
you
Yep.
have
Yep.
this guy and very imposing figure in the movie, very tall, very muscular, uh,
Wow.
for a teenager anyway.
He died in 1996 on Valentine's Day. He was 35.
Leukemia, no less.
Damn.
Did you
Yeah.
know what's really horrible is that he's the first one to die in the movies if you don't count Freddy and Frank.
Okay. Right. Yeah. He's the
So
first one that gets attacked by
they
Tarman.
if, yeah, so they're thinking that that's really sad and hoping it's not like a curse or a trend. Some of the people of the cast has alluded to that, and they said the character's suicide was this in your face, this is a way of life, kind of
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
And in real life, he was a big teddy bear. And when they heard he died, everybody was like horribly um, mournful because they didn't even know that he had passed away. Nobody had said anything or anything. And they just said
Oh,
he was the
wow.
sweetest man in the world, and he just made coming to work every day great. I mean, he was excited and friendly and loving, and no one had a bad thing to say about him, which is really strange in Hollywood.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's our first punk. He's
All right.
kind of our leader of our
Hang on,
band of
we got our first
punks.
to comment. Hi, Becky. How you doing?
Hey, Becky.
Hey, how you doing today? We're just talking about Return of the Living Dead. Uh, yep. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dominic.
All right, brother. So, and of course, we have his girlfriend, or um, toy, as you would call it, uh, Trash, who was played by the Scream great Linnea Quigley. Okay, so you might know her from Night of the Demons. She played Suzanne, or Susanna, rather. She also played the ballerina lady in the remake of Night of the Demons, which is the first one. Night of the Demons is probably one of my favorite cult films as well. And she plays counterpart to Suicide. She's more of I would say the 80s adult parents feared their children would become promiscuous, expressive,
Right.
slutty. I mean, liberated. This is humorous coming from a generation that probably was in the free love 60s. Their parents were. So having them slut shame Trash is interesting.
Right.
It's an
Yeah.
interesting take.
Yeah. 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 But anyway, moving on. I think next we should probably talk a bit about Linnea Quigley. You know,
Oh
she
yeah, who doesn't love her?
yeah,
She's
yeah,
awesome.
she was great in the film, you know. She has a great she has that really great scene in the graveyard over there. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, no, she her but we're talking about Return of the Living Dead. It's a horror movie from the 80s. Cool, yeah. Thanks for listening, Becky. We appreciate it. And thanks for letting me know about
Yeah, welcome.
the sound issue. Yeah, welcome. Um, so yeah, like she they had that whole scene of her stripping in the graveyard, which awesome. Especially since
Right.
me watching that as like a fucking like 11, 12-year-old kid. um, and then
I understand.
yeah, yeah, and then and then she becomes one of the zombies in the movie. Probably the
And
one of them. Oh yeah, arguably. Go
oh,
ahead.
arguably the toughest cast member.
Yeah.
Arguably, Linnea Quigley had to do everything that the men in the movie had to do, naked in freezing cold weather,
Right.
and she did it over and over and over and over again without complaining. Or she was a trooper. And
Well, there.
she did this character so much justice that she caught pneumonia
Right.
after filming the rain scenes. So, and after taking a couple of days off to deal with pneumonia, she came back and started shooting again. And it's like, this woman, I don't think people give her enough credit. Why wouldn't you want Linnea Quigley on your cast when she's going to give everything?
Yeah.
She's going to do what it takes to get the job done, and she
Yeah.
is tough. And I don't
Yeah.
think anybody says that enough. She is tough kid. I mean, she's older than I am, but she's tough.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I give her a lot of credit, especially for all the stuff she did back then. No,
And
yeah, she.
it does have its misogynistic side to it. You could argue that, but even
Well,
in the horror genre, she is a tough, liberated woman in every one of her roles. It's us that slut shame, or the men who slut shame Linnea. You know, she doesn't have anything
well,
wrong with her body. About
well,
being naked.
yeah, I
She
wouldn't.
doesn't have that. Yeah,
Don't
she
be
doesn't have that
don't even
particular
use that
bias.
don't even use that fucking word, Dominic. I would have fucking slapped
Yeah,
that word out of
exactly,
your mouth. Slut shaming. How dare you?
exactly,
We don't kink shame or
exactly,
anything like that here. You live your life how you want to live it. And all of you.
exactly.
So yeah. Apologize, Dominic.
So
Apologize.
I do apologize for
Okay.
saying that crap.
All right. All right.
Okay,
Okay. Good.
so
All right.
we're gonna go on to the next one, or we want to rave more about Linnea, because I could spend all night talking just about
Um.
her.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, she's great, but yeah.
Okay,
Let's move on. Let's move on to
yeah,
uh
Spider. Spider
Spider.
is our next punk.
Yes.
Yeah, Spider, Miguel A. Nunez Jr., I believe is how you say his name. He played Demon in Friday the 13th: The New Beginning.
Okay.
He was
Right.
little Reckless's big brother, and you remember he gets killed in the outhouse. So
Yes. Yes.
that's
That.
a
Ooh, those
little
damn
bit of a
enchiladas. Ooh, those
enchiladas.
damn enchiladas. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. He was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that his second?
Also,
What else has he been in? Because I only.
oh, I
Oh.
got one more for you. One
Okay.
more, and it's not a horror film. So this is something that would be interesting. For kids of my generation, Carl Weathers was a hero of mine. God rest his soul. Love
Right.
Carl Weathers. He played in Action Jackson as one of the thugs in the pool room.
Oh. Okay. All right.
So he's the one that threatened to cut off Carl Weathers' balls. I'm going to deprive you of your
Oh.
friggin' frack.
Oh. Okay. All right. All right. Cool, man. All right.
So what
All
do you
right.
think of Miguel?
He's cool. I mean, he's all right. I don't really trying to remember his character. I know he was the one like the.
He's the guy with the sledgehammer who hits Freddy
Okay.
in the head when he
Th-
tries to, yeah, and then they throw the acid in his face.
that's right. Yeah. 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 Okay. Again, like I said, it's been a little while since I've seen the movie. I gotta watch it again. I do plan on revisiting it very very soon. I have it. I have the Blu-ray. So yeah.
Another thing you should know is that Return of the Living Dead for Miguel was kind of a life changer.
Right.
He was living out of his car at the time. So he had made other movies, and I've seen him in other shows and things, but I didn't know he was on such hard times until the script for Return of the Living Dead came out, and
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
just killed the part of Spider.
Right.
And I think
Interesting.
another good thing about Return of the Living Dead is you have a punk
Mm-hmm.
Spider,
Yeah.
black, has all, dressed in a counterculture way, in your face, swearing, really everything that the the 80s government was trying to villainize. And he's a hero in this movie.
Right.
So I appreciate Miguel for that part.
Yeah.
For that only for that reason. If he did nothing else with his career, he made a positive hero. I mean, he really is a hero. He saves people in this movie. Uh, and he's a black man who dresses like a punk, counterculture.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that
Yeah.
tough and gets in the white man's face, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
we should see more things like that. In my opinion, I don't
Well.
see enough of that. I mean, you can be tough and counterculture and of a different nationality. You could be anything, any race, and still be tough and in your face. You shouldn't have to kowtow to our belief structures of what someone's supposed to be.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's another whole other topic we could get into. But anyway,
Exactly.
let's not
Should we
open
go on
that
to the
can
next
of
one?
worms just yet. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
yeah. So I guess yeah, we basically covered the first movie. Um.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, we still had the three other punks left. If you wanted to go
Uh.
over them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. So we'll do it really quick then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have Chuck.
Speed run it.
Um, yeah, Chuck is Philip Pinnon. Philip Penn. He was a member of the University of California's San Bernardino surfing team. So they cast him against type. Because, you could have had this guy be the surfer dude.
Right.
And also horror fans would know that he was Amos in Return. I'm sorry, Children of the Corn.
Okay. All right.
So
The original.
yeah, and Chuck was yes,
Yeah.
he was the guy in the suit, the new wave suit, which kind of clashed with the punk,
Oh, all right.
but he was still categorized as one of the young people or the punks. Then we
Okay.
have Cassie, who was Jewel, um, and something interesting about her, she did the voice of Shannon in Garfield and Friends cartoon. Um, she's also in a really cool music video if you want to see how much they had to alter her so she wasn't a bombshell, because she's literally a model. Um, they have a White Lions cover of Radar Love. She plays the dining room waitress. If you haven't seen her before, she is a bombshell. If you've just seen her in the movie, you'll see what they did to make her less of a pinup model.
Okay.
So if
Right.
you, yeah.
Okay.
And then we have Scuzz, who
Yeah.
is the guy with the mohawk. And I think the less we say about Brian Peck, the better. Um, moving on to the last major cast member, we have Colonel Glover, who's the guy that they call to read off the number on when they dial the number on the canister.
Right. Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
here's something for you because I love you so much, and I know how much you love Halloween 3 season of the Witch.
All right.
His name is Jonathan Terry. Jonathan Terry played Starker in
All right.
Season of the Witch.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. That's pretty
And
cool.
the last part is that he played in the sequel of Return of the Living Dead. He reprised his role as Colonel Glover.
Oh, all
So
right.
that's our cast for the first movie. So
Cool.
I'm gonna go ahead and what do you think we should talk about now?
Listen,
The second
man, we
movie?
gonna get into the second movie real quick. Yeah, let's get through these sequels now. Yeah, I think we talked enough
Okay,
about
that shouldn't
the
take too long
original.
because
Yeah.
it shouldn't take too horribly long. The
Yeah.
sequels, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll get to them. So the
Right.
second one, I was
Second one's.
expecting
Go ahead.
horror. I was expecting
Right.
horror. This is a slapstick comedy. And
Yeah.
if you see it as anything other than a comedy, you're wasting your time and your money. Uh, it has its moments. There's some funny scenes in it. We have James Karen returning, and same with Tom Matthews,
Right.
reprising their roles with different character names. This time they're grave robbers rather than warehouse workers in a medical warehouse.
Right. Well, doesn't the
So
second movie start with like some kid finds it the one of the barrel they stumble on one of the
yes,
barrels? Yeah.
and it follows the trope of typical army fuck up.
Right. Okay.
So we have the barrels because from the first movie they put them back in. They put the genie back in the bottle, and I think they did a very big disservice to us viewers and fans by not telling us how they put the genie back into the bottle or the corpses
Right.
into these canisters. And I've always wondered about that. You get a little bit of hint of it in the third movie, but I've always wondered how the hell do they get these, especially like a big group of them. How the hell do you get a big group of them into all these canisters?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So
No,
the first scene in the movie is them taking new cans
right.
and putting them in the back of this big Humvee, or not Humvee, big rig, dually, and I'm sorry, military dually, and not securing the load.
Yeah.
So there's your army fuck up. And one of the barrels goes flying off of the truck while the driver is lighting a joint, by the way, because obviously we have to say our military is completely inept in all of these movies.
uh Man, I wouldn't I wouldn't drive this military truck unless I was high. Like
That might be the reason. I never thought about that. That is a very interesting take on why this guy is like, well, I'm telling you something that could end the world here.
yeah,
I'm going to get really loaded here.
yeah, I mean, fuck it,
Going to get tight and drive over some bumps really fast.
you know.
And the barrel goes flying off into
Oh
the
well.
stream.
Oh well.
Why not? And the stream happens to be next to a graveyard. Wouldn't you know it? It has to be next to a graveyard. Has to.
Of course. I mean,
What other place could it be?
like, well, I can't think of any. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then we cut to the children, the main star. Our main star is a small boy. I obviously don't know as much about the sequels as I do the first movie.
Yeah, that's
I'm
fine. I mean, neither do I. Like,
not. I'm still struggling. I just watched it 2 nights ago, and I'm struggling for the name of the boy's character.
okay.
But he's your typical bratty kid from the '80s and maybe late '80s, and he is being bullied by a
Right.
group of his peers that are a little bit bigger than him because he's a little bit of a runt. But he gives the impression that he's a bit smarter and a bit more articulate in his dialogue, if you want to call that movie having dialogue.
Right.
So we have them forcing him to be initiated into their club. And their
Yes.
clubhouse, wouldn't you know it, just know it, is in this little runoff tunnel where the barrel flew in.
Right.
Yeah, that's just strange how that happens, huh?
Just a bit odd. Just a
And
bit odd.
they go into the go in there, and the bully kids find the barrel and start messing with it. And of course, the hero of our story, the young man, decides this is something we shouldn't play with. We should just call the number on the barrel.
Yeah. You
But
remember
his
the sequel
peers
better. You
tell
remember the
him,
second one better than I do.
yeah, yeah, his peers tell him, nah, don't be a nerd. Don't be a geek.
Right.
It's ours. Finders keepers, man.
Yeah.
And so they try to get him in on it and everything, and he's like, I'm out of here. So
Yeah.
he tries to leave, and of course they give him crap about it, but they tell him to beat it, wimp, kind of thing.
Right.
And they start messing with the thing, and they see that it has a button layout and it's covered by glass, and they turn the screws on the side of the canister, which reveals the latch that flips it open so you can see the corpse inside through the little glass viewpoint. And this is something that is interesting and that I know of about the movie. Alan Truman, Tarman,
Yeah.
Trutman, he reprised his role as Tarman. But the guy who was in charge of all the sketch work and all I'm not sure what the exact title is for Return of the Living Dead. He says, if you use my designs, I'll sue you.
Oh, okay.
So they had to redo Tarman from scratch. That's why he looks so different in 2
Oh.
rather than 1.
All right.
So that's a
Interesting.
little bit I know of the second movie. The second movie, like I said, I don't know as well. Uh, so they go. The kid goes off. Our hero, and he gets out of there. And our bullies, after seeing the corpse inside, decide that they should leave for a little while.
Right.
But our main bad guy decides, oh no, I'm not done with the canister. So later
Right.
that day, he crawls back into the into the reservoir tunnel and starts messing with it. And this time, he gets himself a rock and
All right.
breaks the dial. Obviously,
Okay.
I've got to open the canister, right?
Of
So he
course.
starts pushing buttons randomly,
Of course.
like you do.
Yeah, like you do. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, come on.
if I found a canister, that's the first thing I'm gonna do. I'm gonna break
Yeah.
the glass and start pushing buttons.
Especially a canister with a corpse
Yeah.
in it. What, am I not gonna open it? What the
Oh
fuck?
yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So he opens the canister. He gets
Yep.
mission accomplished and gets squirted right in the face with the trioxin, which I don't know if we've mentioned before, but the name of the chemical in the movies that brings the dead back to life is called trioxin 2,4,5. Now you want to pay careful attention to the 2,4,5 because it will come into play in part 4.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So trioxin is based on Agent Orange, which was used in Vietnam to
Okay.
clear the
Right.
jungle so we could shoot and see the enemy better. But it
Yep.
also made our heroes of the armed forces get sick with cancer and all kinds of other medical issues.
Use that term
This was a
heroes
nod to
loosely.
that.
Use that term heroes
Yes,
loosely.
exactly.
But yeah,
Yes.
go ahead.
So another thing that I remember just came to mind. The trioxin was originally supposed to be yellow and not green.
Right.
But to produce yellow gas, you have to use sulfur.
Okay.
And sulfur, when inhaled, makes you get the most extreme
Right.
headaches.
Yeah. Yeah.
They tried it a
Going-
couple of times, and
Can't
it
be
was
breathing that shit in.
horrible. The actor's like, we can't do that. Right. And O'Bannon was pissed that we had to go with green.
Right.
Green is a little less harmful to your lungs and everything else.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's another one of the O'Bannon wanted but didn't get, coming back to the first movie. But anyways, let's go back to the second one.
Well,
We have our villain
Yep.
open the crate, or open the container, the canister. I don't know why I keep saying crate. I keep thinking of the crate from Creepshow.
Right.
Same kind of
Fluffy. Yeah.
bad
Keep
news.
thinking of Fluffy.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh yes.
Okay. So after we have our villain open the canister, of course the gas goes into the graveyard,
Of course. I mean, where else?
and
is
we
it
get
gonna go?
the slapstick scenes of the zombies crawling out of the grave.
Right.
One of the most iconic ones is the zombie that keeps trying to get out of the grave, but keeps getting his head stepped on or his hand stepped on.
Yeah.
He keeps moving his hand to try to get out of the way of the traffic, and he keeps getting his head stepped on when he's halfway out of it's got its moments, as I said.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah. Definitely.
yeah, and while we go back to our two comic relief characters, go back to Tom Matthews and James Cameron's characters. So they have different names in this movie. I think it's like Jerry and I can't remember. But they're playing grave robbers instead of warehouse workers this time.
Right.
And they're going in there to pillage anything that they can get from this crypt.
Yeah.
And they don't notice this small trickle of trioxin coming through. and they inhale it, and they're like, "God, what is that stink?" He's like, "Oh, it's got to be just the dead people rotting."
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not the trioxin. Yeah.
Nah, couldn't be.
Not don't leave. Obviously, don't
No,
get
man.
out of the damn place if it stinks like a bad chemical.
Breathe that shit in. It gets you high, bro. Yeah. Like,
That's right. Well, we'll get to that in the last movie. We'll get to the high part in the last movie.
yeah. All right. Well, so anything else you
So
want to cover on the second movie?
The second movie, basically we have comic relief, and we get introduced to only one thing of merit, I suppose. And it's something that I personally despise about the second movie. You get the exposure of a way to put down the corpses.
Right. Yeah.
Give enough electricity to them, and they will cease to function.
Right.
They'll no longer be a threat, which to me just takes the teeth out of the movie completely. The reason that you're even afraid of Return of the Living Dead is you cannot stop it, and it's just an end of the world scenario where the best you can hope is containment.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Which they don't even hint at how they do it, so what are you going to do?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, anyway.
And that's about all I can really say about the second movie that is really of interest. I mean, watch if you like slapstick, goofy horror movies. It's a goofy and it has a couple of really good laughs.
Absolutely. Yeah,
The
I mean, I like it. I like the second one.
The only redeeming qualities I think to the movie is you got James Karen and you got Tommy Matthews back together again, and they're hamming it up for you big time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, spicy brains. Just spicy brains. Go see the movie if you're interested in spicy brains.
Spicy brains. There you go. All right, moving along.
So should we'll go on to your favorite of the series, if I'm not mistaken.
Sequels. Yeah, my favorite of the sequels.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Return of the Living Dead 3.
So we're going on to part 3.
Yep. Return of the Living Dead 3, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. No, 3 is my favorite of the sequels. I still agree the first one is the best, but as far as the sequels go, I say third one's my favorite. I liked how they changed it up a bit. I like how it's they turned it into a tragic love story, and almost Romeo and Juliet Shakespearean-esque tragic love story, and it's directed by it's written and directed.
Love it, man.
It's written and directed by Brian Yuzna, and yeah, no, I'd say
what might our viewers know about Brian Yuzna? What might they know him from?
I don't know. Why don't you fucking ask them? Why don't you stop interrupting me?
I don't know.
Why don't you stop interrupting me?
How
about that, Dominic? How about that?
I will.
Like,
Okay. Will do. I'll shut up.
All right. Yeah, no, the third one is yeah, no, it's great. I think the two leads, the boyfriend and girlfriend leads are I think they really portray them as a very much in love couple. They have great chemistry throughout the whole movie. You really get the genuine sense that he really cares about her and really loves her, especially since I guess we'll get into spoilers or whatever. The
after what a 30-year-old movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So what happens is they're riding one night on their motorcycle along a highway. They get into a really bad accident. The girlfriend tragically dies. But the boyfriend, his father, is, I believe he was the colonel, right? The military in that. Correct. Right? He's like the high he's overseeing the whole thing. He's overseeing like the whole operation in the movie. Right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So he knows that his dad, I guess his dad, I think, told him at one point that they were dealing with like zombies, right? Like the undead virus that was going around.
I think he snuck in, if I'm not mistaken. He sneaks in with his girlfriend.
Well, yeah, no, to see what his dad does. He had to have prior knowledge of that.
So right.
I think his father must have told him or something, or maybe he just Again, a little while since I've seen it, but from what I remember, basically, like he recalls that there might be something at the government base his dad works at that could potentially bring his girlfriend back to life. And of course, that thing is the virus, the trioxin, the zombie virus of the films.
Right.
And he uses it to bring her back, and of course she comes back, but then he is forced to see her slowly become undead. She slowly becoming this creature that craves to consume human brains to stop the pain that she's going through. And yeah, it ultimately ends in with both of them basically sacrificing themselves. Both of them going to the furnace at the government facility, and they both burn. They both burnt a lot. They both burn alive together. So it's a very poetic ending. Like I said, it's my
Right.
favorite of the sequels. I think it really works. I think it works really well with how Brian Usna did it, and I liked how he just wanted to take it in a different direction. Spaz, Dominic, your
I
input.
couldn't. Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more with you. The father figure is definitely the Capulet reference. Father doesn't think that this wild woman is good, or wild girl is good enough for his son, and she's always getting him into trouble. And uh,
Right.
it's we're moving away to get away from this. I'm being He puts in I think for a transfer so he can get his son away from this wild woman, and he loves her, and you can tell how much she loves him,
Right.
because self mutilation is how she puts the hunger in check.
Yeah, right.
And
There's that scene where she's like jamming broken glass under her skin and like cutting herself up and all this shit. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so she won't attack him.
Right.
And it's
Exactly.
maybe reading too much into it, but I think that is like a testament to love there. And someone took uh, Romeo and Juliet and said, well, maybe we can
Make it a bit more grotesque and a bit more
about
extreme.
grotesque. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll make it for people like Peter and Dom who
yeah.
love, the gross gore
Sure.
and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
special effects, and
Right,
yeah, and
yeah.
they won't have to watch Shakespeare in the park,
Yeah,
to get their Romeo
exactly.
and Juliet
Well,
fix.
it's between
Yeah,
Return of the Living
so
Dead 3 and Tromeo and Juliet for me when it comes to Shakespeare.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah,
exactly.
yeah. But yeah, no, it's he definitely went and he went that route. And yeah, no, I think it's a great sequel as far as the sequels are concerned. It was the
And very
first,
relatable, oddly.
right? Yep. It was also, I
Yeah, I
believe,
think
the
we've all
first.
had a girlfriend or a boyfriend that their parents didn't approve of,
Oh yeah,
you know,
yeah. Um,
and you were like, I love this person, I'll do anything for them.
right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Also, well, I would hope so, since you're fucking married. But yeah,
Wow. Yeah, rub it in, I see how it
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyway, anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah, I really enjoy the direction that Brian Houston takes, and I believe it's the first Return of the Living Dead film where they introduced the freezing bullet, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yes, I believe you're right. Because
Uh,
two, they were hitting them with flamethrowers and with electricity.
yeah.
So yes, I believe you are accurate. They gave you a plausible reason
Wait.
for them to get the genie back into the barrel of
Right.
the thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
genie into the lamp.
Yep. With the freezing bullets. Yeah.
So,
Also, I
but it was
believe
it
the.
was short lived, right?
Oh yeah, of course. But
Yeah,
I also
because the
believe.
Scummy takes it off and starts killing everybody.
Yeah. But I also believe that the actor who played that zombie was also another homeless guy. I believe that
Right,
they
you're
got
right.
from off
Going
the
back to the
street.
first movie,
Yeah.
right? They got the guy who was an amputee to play in the original Return of the Living Dead. So he was on the street corners, and they gave him a job. And
Yep.
him being such a performer, said, I want to see how far I can get before I fall on my face without my crutches while I'm chasing Ernie Kaltenbrunner, Kafka's character, the mortician.
Right. Yeah.
So really, really giving it all. And then you come back to the third movie, and the man, I believe the first person that they exposed the gas to, the first corpse, is actually a homeless man that they found and gave him a job.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really cool. So, yeah, another kind of interesting callback to the first movie with the third one, I think. And yeah, overall, yeah, I pretty much covered everything I wanted to say. I like some of the other. Well, I guess I'll also say I like some of the like a lot of the effects they do. Like with I remember that one scene. There's like that she runs into that pimp that she kills, but she like rips his head off while his spine is still dangling from his neck stump. And his head's like dangling down. That was really cool.
Yeah, and he like parks that around the corner.
Yeah.
You're like, ah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
I think I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to say about the third one. If you want to add anything.
The only thing I think I can add to the film is believe it was originally a script without monsters, a love story, and they petitioned it and nobody was interested in it, so they took one of their titles, Return of the Living Dead, and mixed the two together, the script of the love story, the Romeo and Juliet take, and made it into Return of the Living Dead. I'm pretty sure I remember an interview or something of that ilk referring to that.
Interesting.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well.
So, do we have to go on to the other two?
Yes, moving along now. Well,
Oh God.
Moving along now, we'll delve at least a little bit into the last two films of the franchise.
Okay.
The ones that you're more well versed in, for sure.
Sadly.
No, I guess the first one would be Necropolis, right? Return of the Living Dead Necropolis. Yeah.
Yes. I found out the name of the main villain in Necropolis. His name is Peter Coyote. So there you go. Peter Coyote.
Change my name now to Peter Coyote. I like that. Yeah.
So I think this is right after 9/11. This is like maybe 2001, 2002, somewhere around there, when they're making Necropolis. I still think it vibes of the later sequels to Hellraiser. I'm just gonna hold on to this title with Return of the Living Dead for all it's worth, so nobody else can actually make a decent movie out of it.
Right.
So you get the sci-fi-esque quality of film.
Yes, that grade A Sci-Fi Channel cinema quality. Oh, how we are all
the people that brought you Meth Gator.
Yes, we are. I am well versed in the cinema tropes of Sci-Fi Channel films, and I do believe when they made these Return of the Living Dead movies, this was around the time when they were trying to pick up like lower like end horror IPs and producing their own original films of them. Like I think it was around this time they also produced that Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys film with Corey Feldman.
Yes, the classic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I actually like that one. Whatever. I like that.
Oh yeah. Well, come on. If it's goofy and horror, I'm there, man.
I like Puppet Master in general. You know, dark.
Yeah, I can't throw shade on you.
Full Moon Pictures.
Yeah. I can't throw shade on you anyway. I've watched every single Return of the Living Dead movie.
Right. Yeah.
I've watched them from beginning to end. So whatever your weird movie is, yeah, I can't throw shade at you.
One of these days we should cover the Puppet Master franchise, I think. If you know those.
Puppet Master's awesome.
All right, cool.
Oh yeah. So let's pull the Band-Aid off.
Yeah. Yeah, get into
Peter Coyote.
Peter Coyote. Oh.
Yeah, plays a guess government secret agent, I suppose. They don't really make it clear what his exact title is. And they start off in Russia because in Chernobyl.
Oh boy,
So
Chernobyl.
yeah, he wants to buy the last available trioxin canisters,
Okay.
which are stored in Chernobyl, so nobody will mess with them. So
Right.
you get some shady Russian dealers that are going to sell him these trioxin canisters. And Peter Coyote, being the scumbag in this movie,
Ooh.
decides to purchase them.
Oh boy.
So one of the Russian agents decides to go and get the barrels, where they stay in a Geiger counter safe zone
Right. Okay.
within Chernobyl.
Yeah. Okay.
And ends up touching the side of the canister. And obviously,
Of
this is
course.
where, remember when I told you we're going to come back to the numbers,
Oh yes.
trioxin numbers.
Oh yes, the
So the
trioxin numbers. Yes.
the trioxin numbers in the first movie are 245. Okay,
Okay. All right. Two,
so
four, five.
now in our Necropolis timeline, we have trioxin 5 batch.
Trioxin 5, baby. All right.
hmm
Oh boy.
Which
Oh
comes
me.
into
Oh my.
the details that will make most Return of the Living Dead fans want to put their head in the toilet and give themselves a swirly. Uh,
Yeah.
Trioxin 5 is the weaker batches.
Oh, the
The
weaker of the.
weaker
Oh, okay.
weak, yeah, because it's been through so many iterations. That it's weak. The zombies aren't as
Interesting.
potent.
Oh, okay.
So they fall into the category of talking Romero zombies.
Oh,
They
all
get
right.
killed by a shot in the brain or even to the heart,
Uh huh.
which I was just like, don't understand anyone who's a zombie fan seeing a
Right.
shot to the heart and them go down and not going, "You're in my films." Uh, But so we have this Russian agent who touches the side of the barrel and
Woo woo
becomes
woo
a
woo.
zombie because
Right.
of the slime. This time, the slime, which will come into play later for
The slime.
our next classic, part 5. Um, so yeah, making him one of these lame zombies that can be killed with a shot to the head
Lame.
or to the heart. Yeah.
That happens in
Peter Coyote.
Necropolis.
Yes.
Oh, that's lame.
Yeah. Part 3, at least they were invincible as well. You know, you had to
Right.
shoot them with the freezing bullet.
Yeah.
So we have our villain, Peter Coyote, who is waiting in the Geiger counter safe zone, radiation free zone, or whatever you want to call it. He wonders what the hell is taking the Russian goon so long to get the canisters, the last 2 batch fives.
Okay.
So the Russian agent that is selling him decides to go and investigate. Oh, wouldn't you know it? Goon jumps on the salesman Russian and bites his head off and eats his brain. And Peter Coyote hears the turmoil going on and decides to investigate because, you know, obviously if I hear someone getting their head eaten, I'm going to go and investigate.
Well,
I mean,
obviously. I mean,
well,
what else are you
why
gonna do?
wouldn't you? I don't think any rational person
Yeah.
wouldn't, you know, go and
Of
so
course.
he goes and investigates and comes upon a scene of grotesquerie of a Russian eating another Russian's head.
Oh
And
my.
you see him aim at the Russian goon's head with his pistol, and they go to a cutscene with the big bang. And that's where you're introduced to the other characters, the nephews of Peter Coyote's characters. Ugh.
Wow, you remember this for a bad
Or
movie. You
in high
remember this
school.
really well.
I don't want to. It's painful. So you have them at their school doing their usual, I'm a teenager and I'm up to no damn good.
Right.
Fitting into all the stereotypical, you have your casts of stereotype jocks and nerds, and obviously the
Of
two
course.
heroes, your antagonists, are our nephews of Peter Coyote.
Of course. Of course.
He knows his uncle's up, like works for the government, but they live with them after their parents died, and it's gonna get really fucked up from here on in, kids.
Yeah.
So after coming back from Chernobyl with these canisters, believe that he stores them in the safest possible place in the back of his pickup truck. So nobody's gonna mess with them there, obviously.
Hey, let's wrap this up.
Okay, man. Anyways, long story short, the kids find the container and they break it open, and one of their friends gets sick, and they take him to the hospital, and they have to go in to rescue their friend, and they find out that the evil Peter Coyote character is had killed his nephew's parents so he could augment them with military grade equipment, including a chainsaw hand, and dosing them with trioxin so that they are unkillable military grade, which kind of defeats the purpose, because in this movie you can shoot them in the head or in the heart, so whatever.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. And that's about the long and the short of
Necropolis. Return of the Living Dead.
Necropolis.
Now, moving on to Return of the Living Dead, the last film in the franchise. Here we go. We're about to wrap this up, everyone.
Okay.
We're about to delve into
so get ready.
Return of the Living Dead, Rave to the Grave, baby. What do we got?
Okay, so get ready. Get ready for a tale of just say no, kids, to drugs. Drugs are bad.
Drugs are bad, okay? Yeah. Don't take that trioxin.
We come back to our nephew hero from Necropolis. After he hears that his uncle has died being attacked by a zombie, because he wants to get more trioxin that they found somewhere. I don't even remember. I was half paying attention to the movie, to be completely honest with you. And the kid whose mother and father were killed by his uncle mourns his uncle, which is played by Peter Coyote.
Right.
So that's the first thing, that a glaring problem with the last Rave to Grave.
Okay. All right.
So, again, the nephew finds the barrel. Only this time, rather than accidentally opening it and having his friends affected by it, he takes it to his buddy who was a jock in the other movie. Now he's some science whiz, to find out what his uncle is up to and what he was doing before he died.
Okay.
And they're studying the barrel, and this time they're in college, and all the college friends are around, and they're like, "Hey, what's that green stuff dripping off the barrel?"
What you got?
Oh, I gotta, see. Yeah, so he's like, "Hey, don't touch it, don't touch it." But of course, one of the druggy friends decides to actually dab it on his finger and put it on his tongue.
Oh shit!
And starts to go through the biggest high of all time. Like, his eyes go all over the place, and he starts tripping.
Fucked up, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, he survives. So they decide that it's a great thing to make this into a drug called Z, which has
Of course.
supposedly more potent effects than X. So now we have X and Z at our raves.
Yeah. I mean, hey man, take it from from someone who used to be an avid drug user. Yeah, if it gets you high, someone's gonna make a drug out of it, whether it's good for you or not.
Right, and so it's a very flashes back to the, you know, we want.
Most of the time, it's not good for you. But yeah. Oh, oh, technical difficulties once more. All right, there we
I'm
go.
sorry. I'm
You're
sorry.
back. Yeah, you're back.
I'm back. So, long story short, very, very long story. The kids start taking these pills of Z
Aw, shit.
from, because, yeah, to a rave that night.
Hell
Isn't that
yeah.
wonderful?
Hell fucking
And they
yeah. I
start
mean, where else you gonna
passing it
drop
out to
hard drugs like
everyone.
that?
And they're making a fortune, by the way, just because Z is so potent.
Fuck yeah.
And, yeah, so, oh boy. Then you have this rave party where everybody is turning into zombies and they're all eating each other. And
Sounds pretty
since
cool.
it's a diluted form of trioxin, you
Yeah.
can shoot these zombies, and you have your nephew hero along with two secret agents that just appear to be tracking the trioxin
Okay.
for some
Right.
reason.
Right.
Yeah, and they managed to contain the problem. And probably the only thing that's really good about this movie, other than the slapstick humor and the fact that you're getting high off of trioxin,
Mm-hmm.
is that they have a return of one of our favorite zombies, Starman.
Yes, of course.
So,
Gotta get that Tarman
yeah,
boy.
yeah. And I'm not sure they uh, they got Alan Troutman to return for his role in part 5, because maybe he was doing something with the Muppets, and something a little more dignified. Uh,
Okay. Right.
and I think the less said about that, if you really like the idea of a drug that turns people into killing machines, and just turns a rave into a nightmarish situation, but is
Fuck yeah.
filmed in such a way with the dialogue being slapstick and comedy. It's meant for laughs, and once again, we have the great production value of
The
sci-fi movie.
Sci-Fi Channel, man. Don't you go knocking that
Oh
Sci-Fi
yeah,
Channel quality, man.
oh yeah,
Don't you? Don't...
oh yeah.
All right. Well, I
And as far
guess.
as I know, that's the end of the trioxin. They smoked it or snorted it or took it, the
Oh
last
shit.
of the
Okay.
trioxin barrels. And so it went up someone's body, and yeah.
Yeah, pick your poison, I
Although
guess.
I'll have to watch the end of the movie again to see if there's gonna be, if there's another barrel somewhere.
Right. All right then. Well, I guess that's the end of the franchise. Anything
Yes, we got through it, Peter.
we did. It was quite the uphill battle, but we got through it. We got through it, Dominic.
Yeah,
We triumphed. We've we've
we
we
survived.
survived. We triumphed. We've conquered this mountain. We've conquered this mountain, Spaz. Like the real men that we are, we have conquered this hill. And on that note, I'd say I'd say that's an episode. You got anything else you would like to ask or add, Dominic?
Oh yeah, stay tuned, guys. We're gonna be doing Batman. So we're gonna
Yep.
be diving into Batman, and
Next
totally geeking out on it, man.
next week we will certainly be delving into the Caped Crusader himself, the Dark Knight, Batman. Yes.
You
And I think
betcha.
we'll be in that episode we'll be kind of delving into just the general history of the character. And
Oh yeah, man.
his different iterations through both the comic books and media. And yeah, I think it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be really cool. So
Yeah.
we'll be
So for
back.
those of you who don't know, we don't just do horror, man. We do everything. We be
Oh
talking
yeah,
about everything.
we be nerding
And
out about
yeah.
all kinds of shit. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So yeah, like I said before, we are back on full effect. We are on a regular schedule now, so expect us every Thursday night. You know, night. Oh, I always fuck this up. What is 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Pacific
Yeah,
Standard Time.
specific. Yeah, 9 p.m. Eastern. So excuse my slip up there. Whatever. But hey, we're back in full effect, so don't you fret, don't you frown. The evil shemps are back in town. Good night, everybody.